George, the curious little monkey. Here he comes, he's always on the go. Curious George, the curious little monkey. Where's he going? We'd all like to know.
Curious George at the laundromat. Our washing machine is broken, George, said the man with the yellow hat. We'll have to take the clothes to the laundromat. At the laundromat, they met Mrs. Goodman, who lived next door. I have to wash my children's baseball uniforms, she said. They have a baseball game today, but they can't play if their uniforms are dirty. George watched her take the uniforms out of her clothes basket and put them into the washing machine. She poured some soap in. Then she pushed a handle, and the machine started to wash. The man with the yellow hat did the same with his machine. Now I can leave for a while to do some shopping, he said. You wait here for me, George, but don't get into trouble. George stood and watched the machines. Swoosh went the clothes, back and forth. George loved it. There was an empty machine in the corner. Could he make it work just like the others? George was curious. On a table, he found a pile of clothes. He dropped them into the machine and poured in the soap. First a little, then a little more, then the whole box. He pushed a handle, and the machine started. Now, all the machines were going. Only George's seemed to make more suds than the others. Much more. So much more that they began to float out of the machine right over the top. Soon the suds covered everything, even Mrs. Goodman's basket. George jumped over to the table. The suds were everywhere. A notion of suds poured right out into the street. What a mess! Help! Help! Cried the owner. Who put all that soap into the machine? And he ran to shut it off. It was that monkey over there, someone shouted. George was scared. He looked around for a place to escape to. People came running from all over trying to catch him, but when they reached the table, George was nowhere to be found. I've got to clean up, said the owner. Everybody, please take your clothes out. That's terrible, said Mrs. Goodman. Now I can't get my children's uniforms dry in time. I don't even have a clothesline at home. What am I going to do? Then she dropped the wet clothes into her basket. Boy, that basket is heavy, she said. I'll just leave these clothes right here on the porch. And she went into the house. Suddenly, a head appeared from inside the basket. It was George. He had been hiding in there all the time. He jumped out, shook off the soap bubbles, and looked around. There was a big oak tree in the backyard. How good that George was a monkey. He grabbed the clothes, climbed up the tree, and hung the wet uniforms on the branches. Since the sun was shining brightly, the clothes would be dry in no time. A little later, Mrs. Goodman came out of the house. What a surprise! Thank you, George. I'm so pleased, she said. Meanwhile, the man with the yellow hat and the owner of the laundromat had come over. What you need is a good spanking, George, said the man. Wait, cried Mrs. Goodman. I know he made a mess, but he did make up for it. Now the kids can go to the baseball game. Well, said the owner, I will let you go this time, but be sure to learn how to use my machines next time. When the uniforms were dry, the children put them on. Then Mrs. Goodman had a surprise. A little uniform for George. Her son had grown out of it. Now you can go and play baseball with the others, said the man. And Mrs. Goodman and I are going to watch the game. What a nice afternoon it turned out to be.